duka babu ko daya mun tashi ban mu ga tsuntsu ban mu da tarko kenan.
Wallahi kawata abun ba a cewa komai. Ki duba duk majalisa babu mace ko guda daya. Kantomomi ba mace, kansiloli ba mace. A kwamishinoni ma hana rantsuwa ita ce kawai kwamishinan mata. A matakin jam'iyya kuma matsayin shugaban mata ne kawai mace ke rike da shi. Wallahi wannan abun takaici ne sosai.
Haka ne Rakiya, amma yaya kike gani za mu magance wannan matsalan ganin irin gudunmawar wanda muke bayarwa a siyasa?
Yawwa Kubura, ai yanzu faduwa ta zo daidai da zama. Yanzu lokaci yayi da za mu fito a matsayinmu na mata. Mu yi takara don neman matsayi na siyasa, sannan mu mara ma 'yan uwanmu mata baya. Tunda 'ya mace ke sani ciwon 'ya mace har da namijinta da 'ya'yanta.
Amma fa muna buƙatan goyon baya da fahimta a wajen mazajenmu don su ba mu dama kafin mu iya cimma wannan buri. Kuma ya kamata mu jaddada batun barin kashi 35 a cikin 100 na mukamai wa mata.
Kwarai da gaske Kubura, lokaci yayi da mu mata za mu bada gudunmawar mu ga al'amuran shugabanci na al'umma.
Ni zan nemi kujeran 'yar majalisa.
Ni kuwa kansila gawa.
Wannan sako ne daga Lead Thought and Human Development Services tare da tallafin National Endowment for Democracy NED.
Sai na hada ka da babanka yau. Sai na hada ka da babanka. Salamu alaikum.
Amu alaika salam. A'a, Malam Mato, ya na ganka da ɗan tandu rike da kaza.
Hantsi, na dade ina farautan mai sace mun kaji. Sai yau Allah ya kaddara na kama ɗan kaɗan tandu.
Baba, wallahi da Allah ba, wallahi ba sa tantance je mu je yi ba wallahi. Wallahi Allah wasa muke da kazan nan kullum muke wasa sai ta kuma ta dawo. Yau ma mu je wasa ne ko gaba da
Kai, ba ni son shashanci. Malam Mato, kai haƙuri. Wato zaman banza ne yake damun yaran nan. Na rasa ya zan yi da shi.
To, ni dai shawari na tunda ya ki karatu. Ka kai shi cibiyan koyon sana'o'i don ya koyi sana'a.
Malam Mato,
na'am,
ban ki shawara ka ba, amma a yankin nan gabaki daya babu cibiyar koyon sana'a wanda yake aiki. Ni kuma ka san bani da hali, balle in tura shi cibiyar koyar sana'a da ke babban birnin jiha.
Lalle kana da hujja mai karfi, amma fa ya kamata mu tuntuɓi shugabannin yankinmu don mika wannan muhimmin bukata na farfado da cibiyoyin koyar da sana'a a dukkan yankunan jiha.
Haka yake, kuma a gaskiya idan gwamnati ta yi haka, za ta rage yawan zaman kashe wando da matasa ke fama da shi, wanda hakan zai kawo raguwan ɗauke-ɗauke, shaye-shaye da sara suka tsakanin matasa.
Kwarai da gaske.
Malam Mato,
na'am,
na gode kwarai da gaske.
Ha ba komai ya wuce.
Kai kuma yau, jikinka zai gaya maka.
Wannan sako ne daga Lead Thought and Human Development Services tare da tallafin National Endowment for Democracy NED.
Yeah, Sound Sultan and Janinja. Kenneth, you know what they do. This one of all my brothers, we don't go outside Nigeria, we don't jack more for Nigeria. Always try to look back, cause no place like home, you know what I mean? So Obama tell me, say, Ajo Dabile, and I true, man. Check this out. Oh, yeah, oh. Hey, Ajo Dabile. No matter where you go, make you not forget area, oh. Area, oh. Na Naija, tí ó dé bá ti lè padà wálé, oh. Wálé, oh. How I wish, say, I fit reach you anywhere you dey. You dey far away. That one no say make you the born area, oh. Motherland, yo. Chinedu somebody borrow you a go. Make you travel go Chicago. Remember Nnamdi selling car, so you go America. All these people when they raise you, still they stay for face me I face you. Promise say you no go fashy them. Every other month you go they tashy them. Hillary, where you been promised to marry, still they wait till boy she don't tarry. When she see you now inside ovation, you marry Oyibo from another nation. Use mago get dough. Now your Oyibo wife don't know. Next thing you know, she don't go report you. Waiting you know, they don't deport you. I wish, say, I feel to reach you anywhere you day. You day. That one no say make you the born area, oh. go make you not forget area. Oh. Stoplight town. Area. Nanaija. Ti o de batile pada wale. You've been saying now 1 year, it can turn to 2 years. You don't go for 7 years, but you deserve 11 years. Even when your papa buy, plus the tears your mama cry. Buy you for Chicago, then they miss you for Coco. Beyond do for Canada, your mama still they wonder. Igba wo lo to ma pada o, remember for Naija you get ìyàwó. Kódàbílé, 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 kódàbílé. Ajo ma dàbílé o. How I wish, say yeah. I feel to reach you anywhere you day, brother man. You day, far away. That's one no say make you the born area. Oh, motherland, oh. You say you go call. Everybody wait tire for your call. Will tell why you go like so. From Germany to carry cocoa enter Yankee, but then cocoa bust for your belly. Rest in peace, you fly away. I come wonder if one day you feet come back, yo. Your papa land, yo, I understand. Say you day so far away, long, long way from home, long, long way from home. You got a long, long way from home, a long, long way from your papa land. No matter where you go, make you not forget area. No area before you enter that plane. Nanaija, ti o de batile, badawale. Sound so tired, Ninja, how we doing it? All my brothers in the west, all my brothers in the east, north, south, you know how we're doing it. And all these people here, they rule us, make I try make Ninja sweet so that people go want to come back home. Respect Kenneth's music. Peace out, Jiggy. Now we're doing it. Kenneth said, I'm out. Respect. All my people in the house. Love on.
Allah ya ji kanta, Allah kuma ya gafarta mata.
Amin ya rabbi, abin da ya zo da ƙaran kwana.
Haka ne, amma a zahiri yadda mutane ke mutuwa bisa jinyar da bata taka karya ta karya ba. Abun dubawa ne.
Kamar yaya Asabe?
Bincike ya nuna cewa rashin ingantattun cibiyoyin kiwon lafiya da isassun magunguna da kuma rashin wadata na ƙwararrun ma'aikatan kiwon lafiya a asibitoci yana tasiri gaya bisa yawan mutuwan da ake yi a sanadiyan ƙananan cututtukan da ba na ajali ba.
To, yaya za a magance wannan matsalan Asabe? Anya mai maguntuwa ne kuwa?
Ƙwarai da gaske za a iya magance wannan matsalar idan gwamnati za ta mai da hankali ga inganta kiwon lafiya da samar da ilimi. Ta wannan hanya ce kawai za a samu mafita.
Ni dai ban gama fahimtar ki ba, ki ƙara mu haske.
To bari miki gwari-gwari, idan gwamnati ta inganta harkar ilimi za a samu ƙarin ɗalibai da za su zama ma'aikatan kiwon lafiya wanda hakan zai kawo wadatan jami'an kiwon lafiya. Sannan kuwa inganta cibiyoyin kiwon lafiya zai ba da dama wa jami'an kiwon lafiya su yi aikin su ba tare da mishkila ba.
Gaskiya na gamsu da wannan bayani naki. Mu ma iyaye dole ne mu sauke namu hakin na saka 'ya'yanmu a makaranta don su samu ilimi. Allah ya sa gwamnati ta ƙara ƙaimi wajen inganta kiwon lafiya da ilimi.
Amin ƙawata.
Wannan sako ne daga Lead Thoughts and Human Development Services tare da tallafin National Endowment for Democracy (NED).
Rakiya, ki duba irin wahalhalun da muka sha lokacin zaɓe da irin alƙawuran da aka ɗauka mana amma duka babu ko ɗaya. Mun tashi ban mu ga tsuntsu ban mu da tarko kenan.
Wallahi kawata abun ba a cewa komai. Ki duba duk majalisa babu mace ko guda daya. Kantomomi ba mace, kansiloli ba mace. A kwamishinoni ma hana rantsuwa ita ce kawai kwamishinan mata. A matakin jam'iyya kuma matsayin shugaban mata ne kawai mace ke rike da shi. Wallahi wannan abun takaici ne sosai.
Haka ne Rakiya, amma yaya kike gani za mu magance wannan matsalan ganin irin gudumawan da muke bayarwa a siyasa?
Yawwa Kubura, ai yanzu faduwa ta zo daidai da zama. Yanzu lokaci yayi da za mu fito a matsayinmu na mata. Mu yi takara don neman matsayi na siyasa, sannan mu mara ma 'yan uwanmu mata baya. Tunda 'ya mace ke sani ciwon 'ya mace har da namijinta da 'ya'yanta.
Amma fa muna buƙatan goyon baya da fahimta a wajen mazajenmu don su ba mu dama kafin mu iya cimma wannan buri. Kuma ya kamata mu jaddada batun barin kashi 35 a cikin 100 na mukamai wa mata.
Kwarai da gaske Kubura, lokaci yayi da mu mata za mu ba da gudumawar mu ga al'amuran shugabanci na al'umma.
Ni zan nemi kujeran 'yar majalisa.
Ni kuwa kansila gawa.
Wannan sako ne daga Lead Thought and Human Development Services tare da tallafin National Endowment for Democracy (NED).
Nigeria hasn't always justified the faith of its people, but there comes a time when you are pushed to the wall and there's nowhere to go but up.
If we just decide in our hearts that we want to believe in Nigeria and we want to take steps every day to make this country a better place.
This is our dream, and a new Nigeria is that dream that we so much seek and desire.
The destiny of Nigeria is in our hands. We are the country. The country is us.
We are Nigeria.
We are that turning point generation. We are Nigeria. We are the future.
We are the future. We are the dream. We are the nation. We are part of this. Yes, we are so amazing. That's the least we shall be. At the heart of the nation, changing history. How can they say that we are finished? We have just begun. When we have nowhere else to run to, we have nowhere else to go. So get out of the way of the land of our dreams. We are the nation, we are part of this. Oh, oh. We are the nation, we are part of this. Whoa, carry the song, carry the sound. The future is here. The future is here. Goodbye yesterday, tomorrow is now for the taking. The future is here. The future is here. I am the future. I am the future. I am the dream. Whoa, I am the nation. I am part of this. Yes, yes, I am so amazing. Oh, that's the least I shall be. The least I shall be. At the heart of the nation, changing history. How can they say that we are finished? We have just begun. When we have nowhere else to run. Nowhere else to run to. Nowhere else to go. Hey. Out of the land of my dreams. Oh, I am the nation. I am part of this. Hey, yeah. So get out of the way of the land of my dreams. I am the nation. I am part of this. Whoa, carry the song, carry the sound. The future is here. The future is here. Goodbye yesterday, tomorrow is now for the taking. The future is here. The future is here. Raise your hands in the air if you believe the future has come now. The future is here. The future is here. This is our, this is our, this is our country. The future is here. The future is here. The future has come.
The future is not a time zone that is yet to come. The future is everything that we can be but have not yet become. The future is everything that we can do but have not yet done. The future is here, the future is now. So go ahead and deliver the future because you can, because you must. And together we will.
Yawwa, na gode ku dakata, na gode da wannan ziyara da kuka kawo mini. Ku matasa ku ne ƙashin bayan al'umma. Sannan dole mu samu mu ga cewar mun gina ku, sai dai kullum maganar da muke a ƙara haƙuri. Ina fiye. Wannan matasa ka je ka ba su 5,500.
Honorable, ka dakata yanzu mu wannan ba shine ya kawo mu ba. Honorable, ka tuna akwai yarjejeniya tsakaninka da matasa wanda kuma yanzu kaf ba a ɗauko ma tsarin su ba.
Shine muke ta ce muku ku ƙara haƙuri. Ku ne fa manyan gobe. Daga mu fa sai ku ne. Ba mashin bane kar ku da.
Honorable ba maganan mashin bane. To, na farko muna son kashi 30% na mukamai a bawa matasa. Na biyu muna son a raba ma'aikatan wasanni da matasa. Kowanne ta ci gashin kanta. Na biye muna son kwamishinan matasa ya zama matashi akalla ɗan shekara 35 zuwa 40. Sannan muna son in za a yi kasafin kuɗi na shekara a tuntuɓe mu don ba da shawarin abin da ya shafi mu. Sannan muna son a farfado da cibiyoyin koyar sana'a a kowane ƙaramar hukuma.
Na gode da wannan tunani da kuka yi, kuma in Allah yarda zan kai wannan ƙudurori cikin majalisa don mu tattauna da sauran abokanan aiki na, kuma kun yi nazari mai kyau.
Ka huta wallahi ka babbarin Allah.
Wannan sako ne daga Lead Thoughts and Human Development Services tare da tallafin National Endowment for Democracy NED.
Wayo, Nick Ben.
Yasso on the beat.
Tashi da safe wayo malam kai godiya. Zaman lafiya. Kaka da nauyi, kaka da karfi, karzon Allah. Zaman lafiya. Ko da daɗi ko ba daɗi ka gode wa Allah. Zaman lafiya. Zaman lafiya, zaman lafiya ya fi dukan komai wayo. Zaman lafiya. Ya fi dukan komai. Zaman lafiya. Ya fi kata da zaune. Kasan Najeriya, oh ya Allah, ka haɗa kan Najeriya, oh ya Allah, ka daraja 'yan Najeriya. Zaman lafiya ya fi zama ɗan sarki, madaurin ki daya ya fi sarkin karfi. Komen sayin dare, garin Allah zai waye. Krista da musulmai muso juna ba tabbas. Krista da musulmai muso juna ba tabbas, ba tabbas. No more fightings, no religion, yeah. We are one, stop the killings, let's unite and let's unite and we are one. No more fightings, no religion, we are one. Stop the killings, let's unite and let's unite and we are one. In ka tashi da safe wayo malam kai godiya. Ga ka da nauyi, ga ka da karfi, karzon Allah. Ko da daɗi ko ba daɗi ka gode wa Allah. Zaman lafiya, zaman lafiya ya fi dukan komai wayo. Zaman lafiya, zaman lafiya ya fi dukan, ya fi dukan komai. Zaman lafiya ya fi kata da zaune. Zaman lafiya ya fi je ka dawo. Zaman lafiya.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Apologies that I was starting late. Been on since the moderator is trying to connect. Please hold on for him.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Are you hearing me?
Impromptu, I was good.
Hello. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Now, Sharon, please, can you help me share the profile of our facilitator for today? Hello, Mr. Sharon. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Please, can I get a response if you're hearing me? My name is Mr. Elam Adamutanda. Sorry for the hitches we're having with the network, but very shortly we're going to take off. Our facilitator for today is Mr. Shola Fagurusi, Executive Director, One Life Development Initiative. Shola is the Executive Director of One Life Initiative for Human Development, Ibadan, Nigeria, a non-governmental organization working to improve the well-being of young people by providing safe space, skills, linkages, and vocational training, including information and resources to enable them make informed decisions. He holds a master's degree in development communication and is also in line, is currently in line for a PhD in public policy. He has served as consultant to UNICEF Nigeria, the global media campaign to end FGM, IFC, IFDC, ICRA, and a number of international and local non-profit organizations. Shola also holds a certificate in non-profit leadership and management from Lagos Business School. With this profile, you know that Shola is going to take us on a ride on the using technology to promote good governance and also using technology to tell stories. From our schedule of activities for today, we are also still on advocacy, community mobilization for change, and organizing for action. So without wasting of time, I'm going to call on our facilitator, Mr. Shola, to take off with us on using technology to promote good governance and also using technology to tell stories. Mr. Shola, you're welcome. You can unmute yourself. Is Mr. Shola with us? Is Mr. Shola with us? Mr. Sheung?
Shola just got kicked out. I'm sure he's trying to get back.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to ask all the participants to please bear with us. You know, today, network has been a bit of a challenge to everyone. So if you could spare him maybe 2 minutes to 3 minutes, I believe that he's going to be with us. But yesterday was an amazing time we had with the facilitators. We talked about advocacy for change, and we also talked about community mobilization and coalition building. I want to believe that all of us have been able to, or were able to be informed on how well we can carry out advocacy for change, and also how well we can mobilize our communities towards achieving all the desires that we want to achieve in our communities. And I want to believe that each and every one of us have gotten something yesterday that he or she will use in trying to build our nation. And we have seen that advocacy is not just only for one person, but advocacy is also a move by a group of people that want to achieve a purpose for a nation. It could be for a nation, it could be for a community, it could be for a group. And we have also seen how community mobilization is, how we can mobilize people for change. So as soon as Mr. Shola is in, I'm going to unmute him so that he will take us for today's module that we have. On the meantime, Sheung is still here, I believe. So if we have any question yesterday that was not trash, please, we could send in. I believe that Mr. Sherwin is here to answer some of the questions. And I also want to ask that if you have not put your name on your device.
Okay, Mr. Shola just reached out that he's trying to reboot his device so that he will join us in a minute's time. Okay. Apologies for the delay.
All right. So please, can you, we want a name on your device, not just TechnoSpark, not just YECP. Please, we want to know, we want to see your name, we want to call you by name. If you raise up your hand and I could not see your name, probably I may not give you a chance to speak or ask your question. So please make sure that you put your name on your device. It will also help us during the attendance to see who and who are with us in today's training. So please make sure you do that. All right, I'm going into the chat room now. If you have a question for yesterday's training that was not tried, you could type in your question so that we can be discussing that while we wait for our facilitator to fix his technical issues that he has. Thank you very much. Your questions, please. Okay, Mr. Sherwin, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I observed
all right.
that some
Pardon? Yeah, I have some questions here.
Okay.
Yeah. For yesterday's training, I have one from Nuruddin. I have one from Maina Gambo. Okay, these are the two questions that, and it seems the same, but let me read it for you so that you get to hear it. Nuruddin says, can an advocator also be a mobilizer? Then we have one from Maina Gambo says, online advocacy wasn't really talked about yesterday. All right, that is what we're going to be discussing today, Mr. Maina. How you'll be able to use technology to promote good governance. It also has to do with advocacy and the rest. So Sheon, can you please respond to Mr. Nuruddin Ahmed, I guess? Can an advocator also be a mobilizer?
Okay, yes, an advocator can be a mobilizer. In fact, an advocator is a mobilizer. What he's trying to do is to mobilize a community or mobilize a group of persons towards an action. So it's still mobilization. So an advocator can be a mobilizer. And it's also good to also understand that everyone have his own capacity or where he's very good at. So people are good at mobilizing. So some people are naturally good at mobilizing, while some are good at advocating. So either way, an advocate can also be a mobilizer. In respect to the second question, yes, advocacy takes different forms. Advocacy takes, Mr. Bego mentioned some of them yesterday, if you can recall. He mentioned that advocacy can take the form of a protest, it can take a form of a solidarity walk, it can take a form of a visit, it can take a media chat. So any process or any channel that someone takes to advocate for a matter is also an advocacy. I think Mr. Shola is back.
Yes, Mr. Shola is back. So thank you, Mr. Sheon.
You're welcome.
Mr. Shola, you're welcome. Good to have you. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes.
The floor is yours.
Thanks for having me. Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon, sir.
Okay, can I share my screen? Am I enabled to?
Yeah, you can, sir. You can.
Okay, all right. Let me pull. All right, just a few seconds. Let me try and tame this technology. I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to sharing with us, and of course, also learning from every one of us. I'm going to be talking about how exactly do we use technology to promote good governance. What are those things that we need to know? What are the dynamics? Okay, great. What are the dynamics out there for us as young people? What can we learn from some of the things that are actually ongoing out there? And if we do, what are those tools also that we can actually use for this? Can you confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes, sir, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. All right, so again, I'm going to be talking about how do we use technology to actually promote good governance. That is my interest this afternoon. And I'm going to be covering a number of things. We're going to be looking together at the concept of good governance to ensure better understanding. I'll talk about what are those new trends as well in technology that we need to know now. And then we'll together also look at some of the statistics to actually show us why digital media actually counts, and then show us how to use some of these tools in a way that it can actually aid governance engagements. I hope we're able to cover this together in the course of this session. So governance itself, I'm sure we've talked about this in terms of introductions to the entire program itself. It's a broad concept. It involves quite a number of things. It involves so for people who, for example, live in a country like Ukraine today now, they'll be talking about different issues. Governance would mean different things to them. How do you stop the war? How do you ensure that we are protected? For persons who actually live in a country like Russia today, they'll be worried about what is the economic impact of government decision on us. So all of these in terms of economic policies, what are the regulatory framework? Here in Nigeria, the House of Assembly is currently, the House of Reps is currently considering the possibility of farmers not being able to sell directly to foreign companies, so if companies that make pizzas, for example, need to buy a particular ingredient, let's say they use maize for whatever it is they do, the policy is trying to say that you can no longer buy directly from farmers, okay? So all of this coming together, economic policies, regulatory framework, who can arrest, who cannot arrest, the interaction between the different sectors in society is what we talk about when we say, governance. So when people say, for example, I'm not interested in anything that has to do with the government, the truth is that you're even moving around, you're even being able to say so in the first place. You're even being able to actually use mobile phones, for instance, are all effects of what government can actually do. A single government policy can just come up tomorrow and say that, look, nobody should use Zoom in Nigeria, and there's really nothing you can do about it. And then we start running helter-skelter to say, what are the other alternatives that we also have to Zoom? So it's a process of decision making and the process by which decisions are implemented, or sometimes the process by which decisions are also not implemented. And this is where we have a major problem. How does it benefit the people? Not just how does it benefit some of the people. So for those of us who are leaders in our own spaces and all of that, one of the things you need to remember when you talk about governance is the fact that you need to always ask the question, how does this benefit people? How do we ensure that these decisions that we're putting together, these policies that we're putting together, are actually for the benefit of several persons, not just a few persons, okay? So when, for example, if you stay in a gated estate, people say and ask that you cannot take a bike, you can't bring a bike into the place. You need to learn to always differ to say that there has to be instances where people can actually take a bike into the place, because there will be instances where people need to carry something very heavy. So a student who stays in the estate and is traveling back to school, so you want him or her to wheel or drop on his or her head the entire bag he or she is traveling with down from the streets out of the estate, okay? So it's always about decision making. How do we ensure that decisions being made are actually for the benefit of several people? Because there is no single policy that will be for the benefit of everyone. There will always be someone who will be affected. So good governance alludes to activities and efforts that ensures that governance happens the way it should be. So good governance is about all the efforts that you actually bring on the table So when we go out, for example, to say we are protesting, when we go out to actually, ensure civil disobedience, when we go out, for example, to say that we're writing letters that government should not do this, all of those things, bounded together is what actually ensures that we have what is called good governance. Are we following, please? If you can follow, can you just write good in the chat room there? Can I just see the word good, in the chat room there? I would know that we're actually following, and I'm not just having a monologue here. Can I just, okay, great. Aruna, I can see you. Mante, I can see you. Great. Obadiah, Tabitha, Abubakar. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Okay. So moving on very quickly. We've talked about, good governance. So again, it's also a term used in international development to describe how public institutions conduct public affairs and manage public resources. So at the end of the day, no matter how brilliant some of these decisions are, on the underbelly of it at the end of the day is always about, so where do we get the resources? How do we pay for this, for instance? How do we pay for this, particular service? How do we pay for this particular item? So government has decided to make education, for example, free. The next question is, how do we pay for it such that other sectors of the country does not suffer? And so very closely tied with, issues of governance is the issue of, the economy. So you need to always understand, what is the economic implication of this? Why is the government making this policy? So Zenith Bank yesterday just, sent, an email out to everyone saying that, look, if you have a card, the maximum you can actually do on a daily basis is now $20 as against $100, right? So you need to always learn to actually follow the numbers. You need to learn that, at the belly of all of this at the end of the day is the fact that there's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of decision in terms of economic benefits or otherwise that are involved. And so that's why you see, for example, people's interest in politics is always about the fact that they get to control massive, massive, massive resources. So when people, for example, say that, oh, I am contesting because my people say that I should contest, let's change, the situation, for example, and begin to say that what needs to happen is that when you run into office, you are not in control of resources as the governor of a state. You'll be shocked at the numbers of persons who will stop contesting for public offices in Nigeria, right? So it's about the responsibility of government and governing bodies to meet the needs of the masses as opposed to select groups, in society. So in the concept of, public policy, you have the theories around network, you have the theories around institution, the fact that several of these institutions are actually, pace setters. They decide how things should be done, right? So government and governing bodies have that need, have that responsibility to ensure that they answer the question of how are the needs of persons, how are the needs of individuals actually going to be met, and not just the needs of their friends, right? And you would always have, whether we like it or not, you always have cliques in politics. You would always have people who are friends. The governor of Bauchi State will never come around. I think we're seeing a first, however, in Anambra State. The governor of Bauchi State will never come around and say, guys, there's a vacancy in the Ministry of Finance. I am putting out, a vacancy there. If you want to be, appointed as the commissioner for finance, please go ahead and apply, right? But we are seeing, the governor of Anambra State actually experimenting with that at the moment, asking people who are interested in governance in Anambra State to actually go ahead and apply. And I hope that, those who are really interested are taking advantage of that call and putting their best, their best foot forward. So let's go, talk about the online space. Now, this is the volume of why we have, online space. I have, in the last, few minutes, established why we need to talk about, governance. I have established why, good governance is our business. So I want to take this a little bit further to show us how to show us very clearly one of those reasons why good governance can also happen through what we actually do in the digital space. Right? This is what you have in terms of the online space, globally. This is not just about Nigeria. That if you actually have to read, browse through the entire internet, it will take you 23.8 million years. There is no subject under the sun that you actually want to sit down on and, look through that you will not find the material about, right? If you sneeze and you are tired of sneezing, you can go online and check how to stop sneezing. Somebody will have written something about it, right? And these are people like us. If you go online and say how to buy things in supermarket cheap, there are what we call penny pinchers, and what these guys basically just do is They know how to, so over the years, they have studied the cycles of supermarkets. So they know when supermarkets are giving discounts. They know when supermarkets are trying to do, massive sales because they want to clear out their entire stock. And these individuals actually go ahead and buy during this period. There is now 40 trillion gigabytes of data online. So just imagine what 40 trillion is. And then imagine when we talk about gigabytes of data is, and imagine, the size of your own memory card. So if you choose to read everything available online, it will take you about 11 million years. No one is even going to spend just 1 million years. So which tells you again about the fact that what you actually have online, there are quite a number of things that will be struggling for your attention as well. Okay, so if it's going to take 11 million years to actually read what is available online, so you can imagine the fact that you need to ensure that your time used online basically counts, right? And you also need to ensure that you can also take advantage of the fact that everybody can access this, and then you can put that information online. Several years ago, when the online space was just taking shape, I remember Punch newspaper then decided that they wanted to put all their content online, and then they were asking people to buy a particular scratch card. So you pay, you buy the scratch card, and with that, you can actually access, Punch website on the internet, right? And I remember saying it then, and I laughed that, no, this is, I don't know whoever gave them that idea then, it was designed to fail, because that, I think it didn't even last a year. 1 year down the line, they had to take it off. The content had to be available for free because there were other ways through which monies could actually be made online, which was what they were actually interested in doing then, selling the card in exchange for giving people information. How many of us remember this? How many of us use this phone, Nokia 3310? If you use this phone, can I hear you say yes? How many of us in this, on this space use this phone or saw this phone when this phone was still alive? Okay, so Joshua is not a small boy. Juliet, all these people saying yes, 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 yes. There are some of them are our ancestors. Okay, somebody said my mother used it. Okay, so Ahmed may likely be a very young person. Samaila as well. Okay, Awa is a very young person. I can tell you that Patience is not a young person in the context. If you met this phone and you use this phone, you're already growing old, right? That's the truth as it is right now. So this was a tool that we actually had then, right? And it was big deal. You could do several things. It had good battery life. You could send out information. You could receive phone calls. So it did what was supposed, it was supposed to do. But several years down the line, we're already talking of something else, right? We're already talking about 3310, and people were doing so much. People now do so much, right? Look at this quote from this individual. My G, needs a girlfriend urgently. This nigga plays too much, but this one time is serious. Apply within, and then he went out to actually list things. This was as far back as 2018. So you can imagine the things that have happened between 2018 and now. We have seen several weddings where someone said, people are saying that, oh, she slid into my DM, he slid into my DM. And today we have 3 children, one of them is called Apple, another one is called Android, and the other one is called Nokia, right? So we're seeing all of this happening now simply because the internet has brought about a major component of life, which is socialization, right? Quite a number of things we have seen happen in this space. We also have concept about people actually tweeting even after they are dead. If you doubt me, there's a link on the screen there called Dead Social. So you can go on Dead Social and you can see how Dead Social actually works, right? So what does Dead Social basically do? Dead Social basically allows you to set up a number of tweets. So for example, this is usually used by people who have quite a number of terminal illnesses. So if, for example, someone knows that, oh, I only have 2 months to live, the person can set a tweet and say, oh, if I was alive today, I would have been a graduate of so and so and so. Or if I was alive today, my son or my daughter will have been, 10 years old. So the person can actually go ahead to tweet those things. Is actually stored in a particular space such that once the person is no longer, with us here on the, on this Terra Firma, what happens literally is that the person's relative or friend just clicks a single button, and then all those serialized tweets actually are set to be released at the time the person wants it released. So the point is, if the dead can do this, how much more the living, right? So just a quick fact, about Nigeria. This is the population, almost about 120 million now, 149 million active mobile phone users. The average person spends about 4 hours online. So it's a question of where do they hang out, right? So this is what you need to do with your audience. Where do people that you actually want to reach hang out? So if I'm trying to do something around governance, and I am able to establish that the people that I actually want to reach are people who actually hang out online, then I am set to begin to look at, quite a number of things. How do I take advantage of the fact that they hang online? When they are online, what do they like to do? They like to watch videos. They like to watch, comedy skits. And that's why you're having a lot of that out there. And guess what you're beginning to see? So a lot of organizations are also beginning to ask, people who advertise. A lot of organizations are also beginning to ask these individuals who are doing, TikTok videos, who are doing, skits to actually advertise their products, right? So once you're able to tell what they do there, you are now beginning to have a better idea of actually how to reach them and what kind of information to take to them. The other question you would also need to answer is, what are they searching for? When people get on this space, for example, what do they look for? What are the information that they look for? What do they Google? I'll show us, some of these things once we get to the point where we do some hands-on session to see how this works. Is there a particular person that they also reference? Who is that person, for example, in a city like Kaduna, for example, that every young person would say that, oh, you're not following this person, on Twitter, you're not following this person on social media, then you are missing out. So you want to find out all of this, because that would help you in making your decision as to what governance issues do you want to bring to the table, and then how do you actually want them to see some of those governance issues. So globally, this is what the figure looks like as well. So it's not just a Nigerian thing. This is what the figure looks like on the global scale. This is what we have. And you can see the numbers here. The numbers here are basically telling us that, look, this is not something you want to throw around and joke about. That's what this is basically just telling us, that this is actually something to actually, this is actually something for you to actually take very serious. So if you have 7.8 billion, people who are actually using these tools online, and then you see the number of unique mobile phones, I'll show us the live stats, hopefully towards the end of this session. And then you see the number of, internet users. So it's about 4.6. So this is telling you that your sphere of influence may be beyond Nigeria, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be Nigeria alone. So which means that I can get people to actually key into what I'm trying to do outside of the country as well. And then look at, the number of active social media users. You have 4.2 billion social media users, in that space as well, versus the population of the world. So if we're talking of about 7.8 billion people, and we're talking of about 4.2 billion people who are social media users, then it's telling us very clearly that, look, it's just half of the world that are still covered when it comes to digital media. There's still what we call digital poverty as well. There's what we call, there are the people we call the digital haves and the have-nots, right? You still have all of those people all over the place, dictating and determining what they are struggling with, what their next source of livelihoods will be. So their major priority is not a phone. And then if you look at how it works as well, when you buy a phone, for instance, the next thing that you would have to buy is to think about what? You think about data. When you buy data once, that's not what happens. You have to keep buying again and again and again. When you buy the phone as well, you think about buying a screen guard, you think about lights to charge the phone. So you need to also get a very established power source, right? So these are the concerns that are third world related. And we have quite a number of evidence that, that is the reality looking around from this number. Okay, so let's move on again and see. So this is what platform, in terms of what platform people are actually using. So the question is, what platform exactly are people getting on? What is their preference in terms of where they actually want to go to, right? And then we're saying as of January 2021, this is what we have in terms of the world's most used platform. So Facebook may not necessarily be popular in your neighborhood, but this is what we have seen in terms of, global data to actually establish very clearly what people actually prefer. So you have Facebook. Number two is you have YouTube, you have Facebook Messenger. And so I'm going to ask every one of us, which of these tools do you use the most? From Facebook to, so if you have to rank which tool you actually use the most, can you just type in the, in the chat room there? Is it Facebook? Is it YouTube that you personally use the most? You spend a lot of time on. Can we just go ahead and type, is it Facebook Messenger? Is it Instagram? whatever it is that you actually use the most, I'm interested in actually seeing responses from us. Okay. WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram. Okay, Facebook, WhatsApp, Facebook, WhatsApp. Okay, Facebook and WhatsApp, Instagram. So again, this validates what we are seeing here. I can see just one person mentioning Twitter now. Twitter and WhatsApp for Babas. Twitter and did Obet, were you going to type Yahoo Messenger? I saw you today. Oh, Julian actually uses LinkedIn. Okay, interesting. And if you look at this list, LinkedIn is not, a top priority. TikTok, Instagram, interesting. Joy, WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, almost all for someone else there. Okay, all right. So let's see what this further translates to when we come to Nigeria. Okay, somebody is mentioning Telegram as well. So this is Nigeria, for example, as of 2020. So you have the population, and then you have just about what proportion now? You have just about 27 million, active internet users. Again, this tells us about how active the penetration is. Now look at data from 2021 here. What 2021 is telling us very clearly is that there were 33 million social media users in Nigeria. And if we are talking about a population in excess of 200 million, it means that if 33 million persons actually had to come together to actually vote, that is almost the population of Kenya. I think Kenya is about 47, 48 million. So, of course, this is more than the population of Benin Republic. This is more than the population of Togo. This is more than the population of Gambia. This is more than the population of Senegal. So you will have to bring about 7 African countries together to merge, to the population of social media users we actually have in the country. However, this tells us something very clear. The fact that not just everyone is on social media. So don't expect that every time you actually put something on social media, the whole world has seen whatever it is you have put on social media, right? So between 2020 and 2021, we just had, a 6 million increase. The number of social media users in Nigeria was equivalent to 15.8% of the total population in January 2021. So this is where we stand, at the moment. So every time we say social media, it is massive, but relative to the population of the country, it is not even up to half of the population of the country, right? It is not even up to a quarter of the population of the country. If you divide 200 million into 4 places, you'll be having 50 million, right? So this is not even up to a quarter of the population of the country, right? However, 33 million people is also not a pushover number. It's not a number that should be taken lightly. It's not a group that actually should just be shoved, aside. Okay. So how long do people actually spend on this? So if you look at some of the sites that people visit, these are some of the things that you see. People on Google, people spend about 16 minutes Googling different things, I'm sure some of you have even Googled my name. I think I already saw a Facebook friend request from someone here. So again, it just tells you very quickly how social media, the internet space actually, puts a number of things together. So it makes it easy for you to know a number of things about people. So the first place people go to first and foremost is Google. People just type in a name, type in anything that comes to their mind, and bingo, Google gives you the option of a name, gives you the option of text, gives you the option of video, gives you even the option of images as well, as I'll be showing us, later on, right? So when time comes for JAMB exam, you also have a massive influx of young people using their mobile phones to actually check jamb.org.ng to actually get quite a number of information as well. So this is in terms of number. For those of you who are curious as to number, this is what we have on Facebook. Borno State would have about 300,000 persons on Facebook, has about 300,000 plus persons on Facebook. Kaduna has almost 1 million persons on Facebook. Yobe, whatever you are doing on Facebook in a state like Yobe State, you are only having a conversation with about maximally, even if you have a maximum budget to put out an advert there on Facebook, you are able to talk to just 100,000 persons. Sokoto has 200, Gombe has 150,000. Kano is also rivaling Kaduna State in terms of, Facebook content. So your theory will be that if Kano, given the population of Kano versus Kaduna, given the population of Kaduna, is having almost the same figure, it will tell you that there are more people who have digital capacity in a state like Kaduna, despite having lesser population than Kano. Bauchi has about 250,000 persons, also on Facebook. Adamawa has about 250,000. The Federal Capital Territory has about 2 million persons. Benue has 250,000. Kebbi has 80,000. I already talked about, Yobe earlier. So these are some of the tools that I'll be showing us. I'll be showing us Google Trend. How do you use Google Trend, for instance? How do you use Google Alerts? There's a tool called Email Hunter as well. There's also what we call website analysis. But what I would just ask you guys to do is you can just note these names. If you note these things, you can go on Google itself and then just Google it, right? You just Google and then you'll find what you want to find. So you have hashtags as well. You can actually check what hashtag are people actually engaging with at this time, so that if you are putting up something out there, you can know what the interesting hashtag or the most acceptable hashtag for that particular period is, and then you can use the hashtag. There's also the comment analysis. So if you see a particular, someone posts something on Facebook, for instance, and you see a lot of comments on that post, if you take your time to read the comments, you might find new insights into what you're doing on that comment section. And of course, Google itself, there's what we call Google News. You can actually do that. Even Twitter itself also has, the search tab. YouTube, if you go to youtube.com, you would also find YouTube videos. So you can Google a particular video. There's nothing you want to learn. If you are an undergraduate student in your final year, you want to do your project, for example, you can go in there and say, how to analyze, how to do SPSS analysis. You'll find someone who has done maybe a 3-4 hours video on just that, and that's your course. You can actually do that. You want to write a letter to government, how to write, an attention-grabbing letter to government institution, how to address a letter to the governor of a state. If you put anything you want to put out there, right, you just need to sit down, organize the information that you are finding, and try not to suffer from, information overload, and then decide on what exactly it is you actually want to take away from that session. Okay, but my point here with this is the fact that you can actually find anything, online. Okay, so again as well, what are those things you need to have? The hardwares, just your mobile phone these days, internet connection. Most young people do not, have a laptop, and I want to encourage you. I think it's actually a tool that you need. There's a limitation to what you can do on your phone, right? The new world is digital. For those of us who are young persons who want, beautiful careers, you can be in, a state like Gombe State and be doing things for people in Finland. You can be in a place like, Bauchi State and be having conversations with people in Ukraine, using different tools that already enables interpretation and supporting, the humanitarian crisis there, if you choose to, if that's what you want to do, right? And then by the time, you're out of campus, you're already talking about the fact that, oh, I volunteered with so and so in Ukraine to actually do this. And maybe all that you just do is just, help look through the database of people that they are sending to you, their names. You're organizing it to say, oh, how many people do we have in this bunker? There are 20 female, there are 10 children. The children, 5 of them are male, 5 of them are female. That's all you're just volunteering to do. But my point is just that there's a limit to what you can do on your mobile phone. It's unfair to you. I know it's not a conversation that most young people like to have. It's unfair if you have a mobile phone that is 100,000 naira and you tell yourself that you don't actually have a laptop. The job you're going to get, if you really want to do something good for yourself much later, even if you run a basic business, one of the things you should have is just a system where you can process your orders, you can take log of your customers, even if that's what you want to do, even after, leaving school as well. But trust me when I say that you actually need a laptop or just some, maybe a desktop if that's what you can actually afford. But as laptop these days are actually cheaper, way cheaper than the mobile phone. Okay, so if you agree with my point here, can I hear you say yes in the chat room? And if you disagree, can I hear you also type no in the chat room? And I know that several of you will disagree with me. Okay, so I'm already seeing somebody who's being diplomatic. Gambo is a diplomat. They say it depends. Okay, all right, so somebody is saying no as well. Ali is saying no. I can see Farah Praise saying no. Okay. All right, so again, like I said, it's not, I've seen this happen, quite a number of times. So I speak from experience. There's a limit to what you can do. Yes, you might be very tech savvy, move your way around and all of that. But trust me when I say there's a limit to what you can, equally do. Apart from the feel good, sense that you also get by actually having a system you can work with, enabling you to see things in a 3D, in a 2D format than what your mobile phone would actually allow you to do. All right, guys, thanks. So again, of course, if you're going to be doing this, you're going to be part of an activity outside, you need to think about, your battery. So this is a major criteria. If you're getting any device, you're getting a mobile phone, you're getting a system, you want to look at how long does the battery last, when it's connected to the internet, for example, how does this work? How long does the battery last? How many hours will it take before it actually drains, the battery as well? Now, what will online engagement cost you? It will cost you time, because again, you're going to need a lot of time to actually engage. I'm currently on a social media sabbatical of sorts. I've been off social media for a while for other reasons, but it's something that actually takes a lot of time. And guess what? You are going to profit from that time when the time also comes, right? Because all you're trying to do first and foremost is to build a decent following, right? Because you don't want to have conversations alone with yourself. You want to have dialogue. So people post online, for example, you like their comments, you go and chat on their space. They post out something, you are leaving a like, if it's Facebook, for instance, if it's Instagram, you're also liking the picture. You are the only one who left a comment, amazing picture. Wow, I love the background of that picture. So it takes all of these things actually take a lot of time. Your friend puts up a status on WhatsApp, for example, you check the status and then you chat the person up to say, wow, congratulations again on your graduation. These things take a lot of time. But you know what you're doing? What you're doing is that you are building some form of social capital in form of decent engagement with these persons. Because the chances that someone you have liked his or her comment will come back to actually like yours is higher, okay? You also have issues about financial resources. You're also going to need money to actually do this. And what do I mean by you're going to need money to do this? Engaging with people requires appropriate resources. You're going to write, you're writing. So the time you are spending to do that may have been a time that you are spending to do some other things. I just recently talked about, getting a laptop, for example. So you are going to need, resources to buy those. I don't know of any platform that gives, laptop for free. Except again, if you want laptops for free, there are 1,001 essay competition. If you're an undergraduate and you're listening to me, these are some of the things you can take advantage of, right? If you're a core member, you're listening to me, these are some of the things you can take advantage of. There's always someone out there who's putting out something, asking people to apply for the first prize winner is a laptop. And I did all of this. I had quite a decent, number of wins by just doing some of these things, because the point is that not so many young people will actually do this. So the few young persons who are able to intellectually engage gets to benefit from some of this opportunity. Again, you also want to look at multimedia assets, right? So what are those multimedia assets you want to get? If you choose, for example, to begin to do videos, right? If you want to do videos, for example, you want to get the proper lighting, you want to get quite a number of things, in place. If you choose to do video, you want to do courses, for instance, what kind of course are you thinking of doing? You want to get some recording devices ready. If you're going to be using your phone, then you want to invest in actually getting a good phone to do this, right? You may also need to engage people for your strategy. You may also need to go get trained, right? You want to go learn, how others are doing it, and then you build on that to actually make your own space better. In terms of effort, a successful strategy requires implementation of regular and meaningful content, right? So one of the efforts you need to also put in place is, what kind of thing are you putting out there? If you're putting a joke out there, was the joke properly thought out? If you're putting a cartoon out there so you know how to draw, for example, was the cartoon properly thought out? Did you test it out with a few persons? Or who told you that, so this guy who draws for, what's his name now? One of the most popular cartoonists in Nigeria, did a cartoon yesterday and changed. You guys heard about the case in Lagos of the BRT, the girl who was, murdered, whose only offense was the fact that she actually got into a BRT, system within the Lagos State Metropolis. And this guy drew, instead of the bus, instead of that, long bus, he drew it as a coffin on 4 wheels, right? And then, the girl screaming, of course, inside. And that was the message he was trying to pass across, that this is a coffin on wheels. And then he had it in the form of a coffin and then put the 4 tires there. So that is him using, something as simple as a cartoon to actually engage. So you might come from the position of art. Yours might be that you are able to sing around this. Yours might actually be poetry. Yours might actually be the fact that you can write short stories about this. Yours might actually be the fact that you can do graphics designs around some of these things with beautiful content, right? So some of these things will actually require effort from you, and you need to build your capacity around this as well. And then in terms of advertising, you need to also put some budget down to say, oh, before you grow and you blow, right? You need to actually reach out to a decent number of persons. So with 1,000 naira, you want to reach out to a number of persons, an existing audience. I can target an advert, for example, and say, I only want people in Gombe State to see it, right? That's what, platforms like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube basically allows you to do, right? Google ads and all of that. So if you need to do things like that, you might actually need to put a budget, for advertising for that purpose too. So these are some of the professions, these are some of the spaces that people are beginning to occupy in the digital space. And it's good that you know them as someone who is thinking about governance, because your own interest around good governance issues might actually be with respect to jobs, to say that, oh, I'm interested in how governance creates a lot of job opportunities for persons. We just engaged someone to rework what's the name now? Our logo, the logo of the organization I work with. I've not seen him before. We only saw samples of his work on Instagram. Just ask people to send us. Just ask one of our staff to put those things together. And we have not seen him before. We're asking him to send an invoice to us. We'll send back, we'll reply him. So that's what the new workspace is. You can be in Nigeria here, and you can be in whatever part of your, the world, and you're engaging with others, but you need to put yourself out there, right? If you don't put yourself out there, it becomes very difficult for people to actually see you. So these are some of the soft skills I want to encourage us to get, because again, in the space of governance, if you're going to be doing some of these things, you might be needing to do some of these things yourself. Given that you're just starting out. There's web design and administration. Web design is you putting together a website. Administration is you managing the website, ensuring that every year the website's domain name is paid for. There's graphics design, for example. So some of the adverts that you saw to apply for this program was basically graphics that was properly done. There's artificial intelligence. So when you're chatting with DSTV, for example, or your GoTV app, you are chatting with GoTV on WhatsApp, or you are chatting with your bank on WhatsApp. It's not anybody at the back end there. It's just that they have thought about all the questions you possibly can ask, and they have put answers to it. You also have social media experts who are able to tell you. So they work from the angle of some of this data set that I've given to you. So if you tell me, for example, you want to reach 10 million persons in Kaduna or 7 million persons in Kaduna, so social media experts will be able to tell you that, sir, you cannot reach 7 million persons in Kaduna. If you want to, if your program is to reach 7 million persons in Kaduna, then we need to start thinking about a budget for vehicle to move around the entire Kaduna metropolis, because otherwise, with social media, you can only reach 1 million persons. And these 1 million persons, this is how you can reach them. This is when you can reach them. This is when these people actually come online. When they come online, this is what they come to do online, okay? Content management is also something else. What kind of content are you putting out there? So for every of those kits, for example, that you watch, a lot has gone into the making of those kits. Somebody had to write, somebody had to write the scripts. So you might watch, skits by, people like Macaroni. You might watch all of those kits. Trust me when I say that there's somebody else at the back end whose job is just to write those scripts. And somebody was having a conversation recently and saying that the guys in Nollywood need to be afraid. Yes, and I agree that they actually need to be afraid. The guys in Bollywood also need to be afraid, because what is happening is that people are refusing to spend hours just watching, a script actually unfold and develop. They are happier now watching a 5-minute video that has all the comedy, all the information is packed in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes. And so you have a brother Shaggy who is coming from nowhere, and then suddenly, without even being a regular TV face, is now coming from social media into mainstream Nollywood, right? When what should happen is that you come from Nollywood onto social media, right? So we are seeing, a transposition of that also playing around. So content management is a major deal. If you are very creative, you can think on your feet. So we are saying that, look, how do we tell government, for example, that they need to pass this bill? And you're saying that, look, this is a script I think we can actually play out. If you do this video, this is what is going to happen. Another one we have seen is also email marketing. This is not so popular with young people who are not in, in professional circles. But if you're in a professional workspace where your work actually requires you sending a lot of emails, getting information via emails, trust me when I say that email marketing is then big deal, because you are putting emails in front of people. People get, on average, maybe I get about 7 emails every day. On a bad day, maybe I'll have about 3 or 4 emails to actually attend to, right? So already they've profiled me to say that, oh, this person would always get emails. So how do we get emails to this person? And then you have Google Ads as well. Google Ads is just this. So this Google Ads is what I was mentioning earlier on when I was sharing the Punch example. So Google Ads is where people actually make, money from. So what Google basically does, okay, you were mentioning Bulama. Yes, Bulama is also another brilliant. I'm just reading some of the comments here. So Bulama is also another very brilliant cartoonist, very popular with happenings up north, and national issues as well. Just using his creative. And trust me when I say that there are persons, young people who are brilliant and who have more skills than Bulama. They might just not have the platform that Bulama has, right? But those young people need to start by using just their own social media space. It's just going to take a little while before someone actually picks it up. I used to do something years back. I used to do Nigeria in numbers. I copied that idea from my years of reading Times, Times magazine. By the time I stopped, I discovered, much later, I think it's now Daily Trust on Thursdays or so. I can't remember which day. Started doing the same thing. And I can bet you that that concept was picked from what I was in, because I had quite a number of them, on my timeline, right? So I'm not laying claim to the originality of the idea. So what I was doing then was just Nigeria in number. So I might say number of Nigerians killed by so and so and so and so. Killed by so and so person. I might say 200, the amount of a liter of petrol in any good state, right? But my point here is the fact that when you do those things, you become more visible. When you start out, it might look like you might be doing it for the next 2 years and nobody is looking in your direction. But trust me, when the break is going to come, the break would also happen. It's just a natural thing. As long as what you're giving out and what you are doing is also very qualitative. There's also Google Ads. So Google Ads is how people make money. So how does Google work? So Google is in the business of giving the best information to persons. Somebody called the office line, was it 2 days ago? Yes, 2 days ago now, and said that she actually sells, solar lamps, and she wants to introduce solar lamps to some of the farmers that our project site in Ekiti actually works with. And I was trying to figure out, where did this person get our contact from? By the time I found out, they said she got the contact from our website. She got the contact from Google. Right. So by the time we went to Google Cooperative in Ekiti, we found out that a blog post that we had written about setting up some cooperatives was what the lady actually saw. Right. So if you Google, so the question sometimes is the point rather is that Google is in the business of serving the best content to users like myself and yourself. Right. So those platforms that are able to actually have those content, Google will provide those information to people. So Google will say, does this platform, for example, have text, that's written word? Does this platform have pictures? Does this platform have videos? Is this thing actually sectionalized into different patterns? Or introduction, part one, talking about, cooperative formation. Part two, talking about why cooperative should be formed. I'm just using that as an example. So Google takes the best content and gives it to the reader. Then Google now takes money from people who wants to advertise, and that's where I'm going to Google Ads, and then looks at a number of sites, right, and says, can you please give us a space on your site to actually put some adverts, right? So which means when you're designing a site, for example, you want to give consideration to things like Google Ad, especially if it's a business site. For an organization's website, you might not want to do that, but if you're designing a new site, so that's why when you get to a platform like Daily Trust, or you get to Punch, or you get to Vanguard, you see a lot of adverts. Some of those adverts were not put there by the administrators at those newspapers, and they were put there by Google. So Google takes the money from someone who wants to advertise, takes their own share of that money, and then distributes the rest to every other person who is allowing them put that advert on their own website. And so that's how all of those platforms you see. That's why you see people putting a lot of information online. It's not just because they love you alone. They are putting information there. But because those information are things that people go to read, they are getting a lot of traction on their site. They're getting a lot of visits on their site. And Google is happy to actually share its own profit or its own payment with them. So that's the concept about you having your own blog or having your own space and putting a lot of information there, and then it becomes a go-to place as well, okay? There's also short video production, which you're already seeing. So you see a lot of those kits, for example. So those kits are done, and then you see someone actually come there and say that shot by so and so person. So the person is not the one who writes the content. The person is not the actor or the actress, right? This person is just saying that, look, I have good video editing skills. I can have good cameras. I can do your video. Once I do your video, all you just need to do for me is to say that shot by so and so and so and so. I'm happy to do it for you for free. What happens invariably is that people begin to look for those persons and begin to say, oh, I want you to do this for me. Can you do this for me? I was watching, seeing someone on my timeline, sometimes, last week. She had started a conversation about what was this? About the fact that she wanted to go into a relationship. She would like to be in a relationship and all of that. And then she started sharing her different experiences. How she had this guy, who was not properly motivated. She's into business and all of that. And then her problem was not the fact that the guy didn't have, financial resources. She was happy to go all the way with the guy. But the fact that the guy would just say, no, don't worry about it. You just go and do it. Even when you say there's a job somewhere for interview, he says, no, I cannot go to that interview. I don't have transport fare. Like, are you serious? You can't trek to that place. The guy was just not properly motivated. And she started talking about different issues about relationship. People started talking about different things. And then before we knew what was happening, that pivoted into her saying that, oh, people were reaching out to our inbox to say that, can you help me put up this information? I am so and so person. I'm looking for so and so person. I'm looking for a partner, for about so and so thing. Before we knew what was happening again, she had moved out to say, oh, she can no longer do this. Anybody who wants her to put up anything like that will have to pay 1,000 naira. And guess what? People started paying 1,000 naira to have her posts. But my point here is the fact that she had moved consistently from what? From giving content and giving value first and foremost, right? So in the concept of governance as well, I'm giving all of these examples because I also want us to have very relatable example. Not every one of us would, be very interested in actually going the hardcore way, which is, engaging with government institutions and all of that. But some of us will want to do something very useful in terms of enterprise, right? Because remember that I said that the underbelly of all of these things we do about governance, again, at the end of the day, is about economics, right? So that's why you see a Dangote, for example, powerful, no matter the government. There is no governor in Nigeria today that he wants to see that he will not have a conversation with. There's no governor that Otedola wants to see, for example, that he will not have a conversation with. They no longer need the power that comes from politics because they already have the power that comes from politics because of the economic minds that they also control. Okay, so you might also want to look at this in terms of not just for governance. These are things that you can also do with yourself. When I say, for example, which of your friends should I talk to when it comes to shoes, somebody will come to your mind because that person is always posting things about shoes on what? On the person's WhatsApp status. So the person is not just selling shoes, right? The person decides to get very creative and says, the kinds of polish to buy for your shoe. Why? 3 reasons why you should not buy kiwi polish. The kind of brush to use for your shoe. Never use a hard brush for your shoe. Use it. I don't know. Don't take me serious, please. So that you don't say Shola said that. Don't use a hard brush for your shoe. So the person comes and says, never use a hard brush for your shoe. Use a soft brush for your shoe. And then the person tells you why you should use a soft brush for your shoe. What the person is doing doing that is that the person is becoming a thought leader in terms of issues that has to do with shoes. Right. So when the person eventually tells you that, man, guys, I'm recommending this shoe to you guys, it's 15,000, but I can bet you will wear this shoe until your great grandchild is born, right? Because it will never fade. It will not even change color. You are likely going to buy from that person. Okay. So these are some of the soft skills, for examples that, just keeping it short and simple, you need to also pick up. These are top sites visited in Nigeria. Number 1 is google.com. Number 2 is Bet Nigeria. Again, we talked about the fact that a lot of young people are expecting magic, betting, 2 odds, 10 odds, whatever that means. There's YouTube, there's Yahoo, there's Facebook, there's Nairaland, there's Legit. I shared some of those, things. There's Zoom, more recently. This was during the pandemic. There's Zoom as well. There's Jumia, where people are buying things. You can see that there's no newspaper on this list, right? There's no newspaper, there's no Daily Trust, there's no Punch, there's no FIJ, there's no nursepaper on this list, for now, which tells you that even those newspapers, for example, have to make sure that when you go on Google to say that whatever it is you are checking, Ebonyi State Governor, sacked, right? When I go on Google, the question is, which website is going to come first to me? That is a business that they actually have to fix on their own end. So look at, where you're having the newspapers, where you're having banks. So which means look at GT Bank, for example. GT Bank is like the most acceptable bank when it comes to online banking. Can you guys still hear me? Someone is saying no sound again. Melody, can you hear me now? Can others hear me? Can I just say a yes if you can hear me? Okay, so Melody, I think, it was at your own end. Okay, it's fine. I hope, she's sorted, and she's back. So if you have to do online business, for example, you also want to think about what banks do people use. Every time we do a program and we actually go to write account number, we see a lot of GT Bank, right? Even though we don't use GT Bank, but we know very clearly that, look, This is an institution you don't want to also play with. Okay, so these things just helps you to understand patterns. It helps you to understand things. This is Nairaland, for example, with about 2.6 million registered users, members. You have 4.8 million unique users. A lot of conversation actually happens, in Nigeria in this space. This is what Nairaland, looks like. As of 2018, this interface has changed a bit. So you have adverts all over the place. So Google, it's a machine. There's what we call SEM. SEM is search engine marketing. SEO is search engine optimization. So, sometimes the question is, what if you Google people's names? So that's how you know that, people are making some progress. That's how you know that you are becoming a thought leader in a particular area. So if I Google Deda John, for example, what am I going to find? If I Google Daniel Kundi, what am I going to find? If I Google Aminu Bello, what am I going to find? Right? So what happens if, you Google my name? What are you going to find as well? I need to be in control of that narrative, right? So I need to fill in those blanks as well. If there's something I don't want you to see online, for example, then I need to begin to address it, right? It's just like when people call you. So this thing has also pivoted into when people call you, for example. When people call you, what do people see your name as? Do they see your name as Aminu Bet Niger, or do they see your name as Victoria Shoes, right? Or do they see your name as Daniel Laptop, or so you need to own that conversation. I remember somebody saying that somebody was owing them. They were in a group together, and then they were supposed to buy something. Everybody contributed the money, and then this guy just took their money and ran. Guess what everybody in the group did? All of them just told themselves. Somebody put the information in the group and say, please save this person's name. Let's assume the person's name is Musa. Please, everybody save this guy's name as Musa Fraud. So all of them in the group, about 20 of them, saved his name as Musa Fraud. So anytime anybody calls Musa, right, what will first come up on Truecaller for most of them is what? Is Musa Fraud, right? So they ran Musa out also. Musa had to stop using that line and then go and sort himself out again to reinvent himself. So the same way we say that, what do people find when they actually Google your name? It's the same thing. We also say that what do people find, for example, when they try to call your line, right? What does Truecaller say that you are? So you want to own that narrative. You need to be very deliberate about it, these days. Twitter notification on platform of choice. If you're a Twitter person, just find videos on how to use Twitter properly. There are a number of things you can actually take advantage of on Twitter that may not be very apparent to you, right? You can check hashtags. There's also Instagram as well. There are certain things that if you Google, I know that, Kaduna, for example, on Twitter says, there's Arewa Twitter, there's hashtag Arewa Twitter, there's Kaduna Twitter, states like that. You want to be visible in places like that. So sometimes we want to have a program. I know we're having some trainings, for example, in Uyo later this year. We're going to be training a number of social media influencers and journalists together. And I know that when the time comes for us to start doing that research, the first place we'll go to about who do we bring to the room? Who are the people who are having conversations about Akwa Ibom, right? We are going to go to places like Twitter, Instagram. We're just going to ask somebody, a volunteer, or, a programs assistant in the office, please just go online and see what you can find in terms of, Uyo. And then the person begins, this person always talks about governance issue. This person is always talking about, so and so. These are the people I think we can actually bring to the training. And then we're paying them to actually do some work as well. They are getting some visibility for themselves. So you want to take some of this platform, not just for your own, enjoyment, entertainment. You also want to take them serious as well. WhatsApp, what are you known for? Causing a change to happen is a job itself, right? Tell your story. If you feel at something, there's a story buried in there. You were going to work, you were in a bus. One of my colleagues in the office was showing me, a former, a colleague of ours' WhatsApp status, how she tells her story, her experiences taking bus in Lagos every day. And then we're like, oh, wow, she actually writes very well. Now the conversation is changing to how can she actually start a blog as well, right? So you need to be deliberate about this thing. Talk about your work, what you're doing. You spoke to a boy on the street yesterday. Someone came in here, for example, to interview, and she says she's currently doing the Empower thing and was saying that, okay, so my colleague said, where do you currently teach? And she said she cannot remember the name of the school that she teaches. And it's a sad commentary about, several of the things we're saying today, the fact that so many of our young people are not aware of their environment. Can you not know the name of the place that you work? It's a bad sign. It's a sign that you don't actually take things actually. So you could decide to talk about your story. Don't just talk about the good ones, talk about the bad ones as well. The lessons from it. That's what makes you human, right? The fact that we don't always have it good. Change is usually not cheap. So when we're trying to get things to happen from government perspective, I have an acquaintance of mine who is currently pushing a change. That's Ebenezer. is currently pushing a change to get, UK government to stop, US government to stop the IELTS exam. That you can't actually have colonized people. Their first language now is the English language, and yet you're asking them to write a test of English language, right? So that's all it has been about in the last 2 years. Now it's beginning to gain traction. It's been called for interview on radio. He's been asked to come and talk about it at conferences. Why are you doing this? Why do you think this will happen? The UK government is already also putting some of these issues that he's mentioning about also as a debate. He has done analysis to say that even the French government that did not colonize us, for example, once you write what is called the DELF, I think DELF 1 or DELF 2, that written exam is valid for the rest of your life. But once you write the IELTS, for example, it's only valid for just 2 years, right? So you can see how he's now using graphics again to do the analysis. So he had these graphics that he did, DELF versus, French government versus, UK government. My point basically is that change is actually not cheap, right? It takes some conscious effort. It takes some very decent, timing as well. Some of your programs can also be online if you are sure that there's a group there. Join us on WhatsApp to learn about the FOI and how it can be used in Gombe State. Extras for young person. Dogara will be teaching us on where to get, the cheapest jeans and shoes in Gombe. So you need to always also pander to the group of persons because governance is not an interesting subject to young people. So if all I did in the course of this session was just talk about how you can use Facebook to actually post about, what the government is doing and all of that, several of you would not find it, entertaining, but already you are thinking about how you can use some of these things for yourself. So you can also do the same thing as well. When you are having a session and you're trying to talk to people, you are the student union president, you have this symposium, you're talking about, importance of whatever it is on your campus, try and find, something else that you think students would actually be interested in, right? It might be a fashion show that you actually want to add as a side attraction to what you are doing as well. Then again, you also need to think like government tertiary institution. They want something as well, tell them the benefits. So don't just go there to talk about just yourself, right? Whatever it is you're writing to them, whatever it is you are putting online, think about the good side as well. What is government doing right? What are these institutions you are trying to reach out to doing right, okay? Don't just talk about the negative all the time. They sometimes do not also know what they need to do. That's the truth. Several of the persons who actually occupy government institutions in Nigeria also need help, right? So sometimes they don't even know what they need to do. But if you come to them as though that you are superior to them, you know better, they're not likely going to listen to you, right? They most times also want a good life. Of course, they are always the very different ones amongst them. They just want things easy. They want things, cheap. They're not really bothered about some of the things we're bothered about. Invite them to your program. If you're doing something, it might just be online. You're doing a class on WhatsApp. Invite them there. Share with them what they, share with them what they do, right? You can tell your group about what this government agency is about. Be creative in what you also do with them, right? So that it's not just the usual thing as well. Then you can come up with a personal activity plan. Like I said, building your profile online is not, sometimes this thing takes you years, sometimes this thing takes you months, but you have to be consistent at it. Oh, every day, I'm just going to do one Facebook, post. I'm going to put out 12 tweets. I'm going to write a blog, right? Sometimes I know my colleague got an opportunity from they wanted a development photographer and they wanted to see evidences that, oh, you have done some photography in a number of places. And this was something they wanted her to actually go into, Plateau States to actually go and do. So all she needed to just show was her blog, right? And the blog has shown the different kinds of pictures that she has taken, trying to talk about the pictures, even though they were not consistent, they were more in tune with her than they were with other persons who were not trying to build a portfolio, because you cannot build, you cannot show evidence of your work, even if you are given a notification in 1 week. You cannot do what somebody has done in 1 year in 1 week. Someone who has been posting online regularly for 1 year, even if someone tells you that I'm going to check your Facebook update, your Facebook status tomorrow to know whether you are the right fit for this role, you can't do the same thing, no matter how hard you try. Okay, so you need to have a plan, to actually do this. Your skill set as well. What's the new job skill set that is needed? I've talked about it. Do you have it? If you don't have it, one of the things you want to do is to start, thinking about how do I get it? And I've told you the secret to getting it. All you just need to do is to go online, pick up some of those courses. You'll find a YouTube video. You find, patterns to some of these things, and then you can use. I'm rushing to bring this to a close because of our time. So these are some of the easy and cheap approaches to actually getting visibility. Do it often. Be particular about your pattern. You can even go and design a logo for yourself. You are a brand, as an individual. Get some dedicated loyalists you can work with. Get your timing right. When the people go online, get the online activities reported, especially if something huge came out of it. So I can do a session for you guys and it's just as simple as, the session we just had now. I can put together a press release. I control my own maybe blog space, for example. I just go and put it on my blog. Right? Fabrici, speaks at, Lead Thought, so and so and so. Or Lead Thought has a blog post, for example. They put it up. I go and screenshot it. I put it as the image of my site. These things actually helps with your visibility. We are the bloggers in your location. Know them. Bloggers are casually different from social media influencers, right? Bloggers are different when it comes to social media influencers. Bloggers are more about content. Social media influencers are about, happening real-time basis. Bloggers are more about how do I organize this information together in a particular place that we actually can also use. Sean, please, if you need to, please just leave me a message. Just leave me a message. I will know, when my time is up and what I need to do at this end, right? Now we know more. This coming Saturday, we're having an online symposium on navigating through pharmacy school, starting well, finishing, finding the balance. Yeah, so fantastic. So navigating through pharmacy school, I'm already thinking this will be for people who are just coming into the School of Pharmacy. They're in part 1. So what do you think their major concern, for example, would also be? Right? So if I tell them how to gain, how to get 20 free followers on Instagram as part of the side attractions, bet me, and you will have people who attend that program just because of that. So your strategy is that, okay, how many of you are in the ESCOs? There are about maybe 10 of you in the ESCOs. Each of you have just a single friend. So 20 of us are going to follow each of the persons that actually attend this program. So we are guaranteeing each of them 20 followers, right? So they are coming to the program simply because there's a social media component, which you are doing in respect to what they are also interested in, right? I've talked about getting visibility, planned and sometimes expensive approach, get sector or influence, industry influencer to review before going ahead to engage, use ads as well. You have to pay, get videos. You can do a short video. For that. Provide facts and data. Hotspots are hot, very hot. So when I say hotspots are hot, so I don't know if you guys use hotspot, but if most times you are with your laptop and you need to use your hotspots, the way you look for Wi-Fi, all over the place, you actually can change the setting of your phone, the hotspot, to the name of your program. So we can say, starting well. In fact, starting well in pharmacy school may be very long. You can actually say starting well. Right? Starting well farm, and that's what your hotspot is showing. So I can get like 20 people whose hotspot are showing the same thing, right? So young people are looking for free Wi-Fi. That's the first thing they look out for when they get into a room. Then it becomes actually very easy for them to actually link up to that. Get reports together in, e-version. So people who did not attend this program, for example, you can do a 2-page design. What happened during the program? You can collect pictures together, brand the pictures, talk about the fun time that people had. So next time you're having a program, for example, those who see your reports will be, wow, I really missed a lot when eventually I didn't attend this training. You can also do jokes, but with jokes, you need to be very careful. It needs to be very well orchestrated as well. So these are banks. Actually, I shared this the last time I had this session. I think it's still worth sharing. I called it a joke that didn't, go wrong. So if you look very carefully at this image, you can see Union Bank. You can see Sterling Bank. Sterling Bank is the guy going up there. You can see, an elephant. That's First Bank. You can see GT Bank, and it looks like one of you or one of us actually in prison. And then you can see Access Bank, with the arrows, and the broads on the left there. And so this was what happened. So Sterling Bank came up and said that in shooting for the moon, men become stars. And then First Bank replied and said, what an elder sees while sitting, a child cannot see it even if it travels to the moon. Respect your elders, you first, right? You remember the slogan of First Bank is you first. And then Union Bank said, heading to the moon without a spacesuit, Johnny messes. Simpler, smarter, safer banking, right? This same Union Bank did, something as a joke when, Muhammadu Buhari became president, and then put it out there and say, your president banked with us. What about you, right? Because when Buhari declared his assets, it was apparent that he was a customer of Union Bank. Then First Bank, still coming back to this joke now, First Bank now replied and said, even fathers have fathers. They are called forefathers, right? You first. I actually don't know who is a bond between you and Access now. Access said, know your elders. Now it is respect your elders. So it was just a joke, and then it became, very, a lot of young people got involved in it. Some abusing the banks, and then, Sterling Bank that started this said, dear fellow bankers, that's come to our attention that they post on our official Twitter handle on July 20th, 2018, cause discomfort to you and customers as an organization that aspires to the highest of professionalism, blah blah blah. The post has been taken down, but while the post was taken down, the numbers of followers were never taken down. The numbers of followers at that particular time had climbed. Okay. So other tips, you're a writer, but you're not, a writer as well. Whatever it is you want to do, please learn that you need to write. And I always encourage young people, try not to fall for that short, that pit hole of, always using shorthand to type, right? You need to just type properly. You can say okay, you can write okay, letter O and K instead of writing KK, right? Just learn to write well. It's a skill you will need, especially if you want to be a professional, you want to work in a corporate setting, right? You can't write letters with shorthand. You can't even write emails with shorthand. When people reach out to us and they want something, usually we just ask them to go and send an email. The first email you send to us is what helps us to know if this person is serious or not, right? It's not about what you like or what you want to post. It's about the audience sometimes. It's about what does this audience want to read. Learn to respect the numbers. It helps you not to waste your time, right? Like I mentioned earlier on, we're just talking about less than 20% of the entire population on social media. So if I'm in a community where people are not on social media, I will just be using social media to build my own influence, right? To build my own, what we call, to build my own visibility, not necessarily to actually make some change, because there's no way what I'm tweeting about, somebody in the community will be able to validate and also tweet about it because they're not even on Twitter. So there's still that place where you need to put the boots on the ground. There's also what we call social listening. Social listening is you listening to what other people are saying on social media. You could get an idea from there. It's just like somebody watching a movie, for example, and say, wow, I'm watching this movie and then I got an idea for another movie. So somebody could put up a post, for example, and right underneath that post, you find something else that is interesting to you as well. What happens in the newsroom as well, write on existing hashtags. So the point here is that, sometimes you can also go on, you write, for example, there's a section in the newspaper called letters to the editors, right? So you write a letter to the editor, for example, or you read the newspaper, or you go online to read the newspaper and you see the comments that people are making. If you're the kind of person who writes, you might get ideas for certain things. A drug has just been released, say antiretroviral drugs, for example, right? And you're a pharmacy student and you have a blog on, you're just talking about pharmaceutical, just life as a pharmacy student. Nothing stops you from also going there to actually look at what's the research, write about ARVs as well. The COVID-19 vaccine, for instance. So there's a war between Ukraine, and Russia, for instance, and nobody else is talking about COVID-19 again. So what suddenly happened, to COVID-19? And then you still have, Djokovic saying that I am no longer playing tennis. I'm not able to play tennis simply because I decided not to get vaccinated. So these are things that you can actually see. And in the comment section, you can get ideas as to what you want to write. Know the lifestyle of your group, you seek to reach. When do they sleep? When do they wake up, for instance? Bad news, you have to write a report, possibly. So sometimes you also want to keep notes about some of the things that are happening, on and around you as well, so you know what to do. So I've talked about where to get some of these learnings. Go to youtube.com, go to udemy.com, go to coursera.com, go to edx.com, go to Google itself. Other complementary skills around this, learn how to use Google, Microsoft Word, learn how to use Microsoft Excel, learn how to use Microsoft PowerPoint. If you want to take this a step further as well, learn how to use Google Slide, Google Doc, Google Sheets, right? These are the equivalent of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Be a news junkie as well, hear about everything happening around you. So I talked about, the governor of Ebonyi State being asked by the High Court to actually vacate office. He has gone to the appeal court to do that. We know about the travails of Buni of the APC, for instance. What else is happening in terms of governance in Nigeria? Yes, there are people actually running for the presidency. El Rufai went ahead yesterday to say that, if the president does not ask him to run, he's not going to run. So you need to know about all of these things happening in your polity, happening within the political space, if really you are interested in governance issues, because it makes you very versatile. It makes you understand, and then you are beginning to process these things. What does it mean to you, right? Someone who is interested in economics, for example, which is the underbelly of governance, like I mentioned, we begin to ask questions that what is the implication of the war between Ukraine and Russia? How does that affect our own oil trade? Because Russia is a major exporter of oil, right? And you need to use this information responsibly, right? It helps you become, very conversant with things. Finally, I'll end by saying that, having all of this put together, there's something else called digital estate, which is what some of us would inherit or give to our children. I started at some point by asking us about the Nokia phone, and several of us had not, seen the Nokia phone. Some of us had seen the Nokia phone. Those of us who are way, way younger do not even know what I'm talking about, right? Maybe some of them met the BlackBerry, and the BlackBerry is today no longer. But imagine someone who owns, what's the popular site out there, who owns the page for Bulama the cartoonist. Imagine someone who manages, Linda Ikeji, for example, right? Imagine someone at the back end, the family that actually owns, Punch Newspaper. Just imagine any popular, social media handle that right? And the number of followers they have. When that person dies, right? Whatever happens to that person, the children of tomorrow will not be saying that, Daddy, Mommy, I want to inherit your house. What they will be saying is that, Mommy, I want to be the one to inherit your Facebook account. I want to be the one to inherit your Twitter account. Because the Twitter account, for example, has maybe 1 million followers. And then people come to her to pay her 10,000, 30,000, 300,000 just for her to actually do adverts, right? So you can imagine, what that, would look like. So that's the future we're talking about digital estate. So from the point of, trying to pivot into doing certain things around governance, you are also building an estate for yourself. You are building a decent following for yourself that you can actually put in your will and also make, children, your own children, for example, to actually inherit some of those things. Yes, someone has mentioned Google Digital Skills. Yes, there's Google Digital Skills. Grammarly you can install. There's YouTube Academy as well. Please look through the comment section. You see some of these things. There's Allison.com. There's Angie Nation Fan. Okay, I'm not familiar with that. Olga, do you mind sharing, maybe more information also about that? Like I said, I'm also here to also learn. All right, guys. So this is what I have for this session. I don't know if you have questions. If you are angry with me, please don't be angry. If you are sad, if you are bored, please let me know. If you found this interesting and all of that, I'm happy to. Our AI is found within this social media app. They track and store our data online. Yes, that's the reality. They are AIs. Sometimes I even feel some of the AIs, when you make a phone call, for example, and you tell your friend that, oh, what about that wristwatch? Am I going to buy that wristwatch tomorrow? The next thing you start seeing is that you start seeing adverts from Facebook on wristwatch. So sometimes I get very paranoid and like, are you sure that these guys are not even listening on our conversation? Because when you're downloading that app and it says, do you agree with so and so and so? Except what's his name now? Except Mina Gambo Jr., who is asking the question, except you always read that thing, right? Then I can tell you for a fact that, we know for sure that they are not storing our data and all of that. But the truth is that once you say no, you're not able to download the app. So somehow we are hooked. And that's why they start, those ways. They first make it, they first make it free. So you are using that thing for free. So if today, for example, Facebook comes and says that anybody who wants to use Facebook, you have to pay 1,000 naira every time you download the app. So you pay 1,000 naira per year. Do you know all of us will actually pay, right? Because now we are hooked to it. All of you use Gmail, for example, as an address. If Gmail now suddenly comes and says you have to start paying 5,000 naira every year to actually use, Gmail, we all actually pay for Gmail, right? We're talking about tricks, and all of a sudden I started seeing, men truck, advert. Yeah, so I'm happy you guys found it interesting. So if you have any questions still, you can just leave in the chat room. I can take care of them. And then I would ask for just a quick break, just maybe like a 3 minutes break. If I can get that, let me just put some things I want to show you together, and then I can come back in. Is that fine? Lead thoughts, Sheon and others?
Okay, yes, that's right, Mr. Shola. Thank you for that wonderful session. While you get things ready for the next session, I will take note of comments on the chat box.
Oh ya Allah, ka hada kan Najeriya. 'yan Najeriya. Kudu da arewa duk ta kasan Najeriya. Baki da fari duk ta kasan Najeriya. Habib da Benat duk 'ya'yan Najeriya. Tuba da kuka Allah zai ji kukan Najeriya. Rokonmu ya Allah ka ji kukan Najeriya.
No fightings, no religion, no religion. We are one. Stop the killings. Let's unite and let's unite. We are one. No more fightings, no religion, no religion. We are one. Stop the killings. Let's unite and let's unite. We are one.
In ka tashi da safe wayo malam kai godiya.
Zaman lafiya.
trendybeats.com.
Show you face for crime fighter. Rich man with his money, we know they see their face for crime fighter. Tell me something I don't know why. Rich man go they all like we are. One man go they sound. Rich man go they all like we are. One man go they sound. They gonna lead us well. Don't let this nation to fall inside well. Mr. President, lead us well. If you be governor, govern us well. If you be senator, anytime well. Police well, now they take bribe. They lead us well. No, govern us well. If you listen it up, anytime well. If you be police well, now they take bribe. Well, you know they, brother, transportation not there. And our road is not good, though. Want a body never people, no get light. Everybody just say Allah. Well, now they know how we want survive. Many youth ready for work, but as work not they know how we want survive. We will be giant of Africa, but to get different than our yeah. My God, policeman go see white, he go tell you say I say that thing na red. Tell me something I do to make on lead us well. Don't let this nation to fall inside well. Mr. President, lead us well. If you be governor, govern us well. If you be senator, anytime well. Police well, not they take bribe. Lead us well, govern us well. If you listen to us anytime well. Police well, not they take bribe. I like the way we can kiss the name of the party.
All right, I can get back on now if that's fine.
Okay, Shola, you are ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay. All right, guys. So this is Internet Live Stats. Again, this is live as we speak. I'm just trying to validate, positions about some of these tools and how important they are. So you can see the number of number of searches, right? That has happened on Google search today, 5.3 billion, right? People are searching for things. Look at the number of pictures uploaded, 61, million pictures on Instagram. Facebook active users today, you have about 3 billion. So trust me when I say that, you need to be in the digital space. You need to find your space there. Look at the number of laptops. For those of you disagreeing with me, yes, look at the number of smartphones sold today. So it's not just a Nigerian thing, actually, right? It's just a cultural thing. Look at the number of computers sold today as well, right? And, with that problem again, you're talking about buying data, you're talking about electricity, you're talking about data emission. My laptop is here blowing heat. Your phone there is also getting hot. I haven't spent, almost the last over 1 hour already on Zoom here. Look at the total number of websites. So these are things that you want to know that, yes, they are there. They are like the new places where people come together. People no longer move around a lot. Myself, yourself, we're meeting for the first time. A relationship is being started here simply because we actually have the opportunity to actually, can you see my screen? Jamin is saying that you're not seeing my screen, really? No, some people can see my screen. Yes.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to be sure. So for Abdurrahman, for Jamil, you want to check at your end. Okay, you can see it now. Okay. So I'll show us again, I talked about Google Trend as well. So let me show us, this is, so I just typed, just go on Google and type Google Trend. Okay. So nothing special in that sense. So I just typed Google Trend, but this is showing us results from the US in the past month. So I am going to change this from US. I'm going to change this to Nigeria, right? And what I want us to see here is, so let me change this to Nigeria, just for us to see what are people searching when it comes to fuel issues from different locations. Where's the search? And it's not just in the last 12 months. The fuel crisis happened in the last 30 days. So I'll say in the last 30 days, I want to see what people are checking out. Maybe I want to put out a post. I want to put out a conversation about fuel. So I want to see what's going on. So look at what people are interested in, for example. So most of the issues about fuel are coming, searches online about fuel are coming from Kaduna State, followed by Ondo State, followed by Adamawa, followed by Benue, followed by Akwa Ibom. And then these are the things that people are actually looking at. They are talking about adulterated fuel. So it means that if I go online to go and do a post on how to identify adulterated fuel, I would have a lot of following. A lot of people would actually read that post, especially if I have technical expertise around it. You guys remember the 21-story building that collapsed in Lagos, for example. So during that period, if I had done a related search about building, you possibly will find, what causes buildings to collapse, right? And then if I was a professional, if I was an architect, for example, and then I went ahead to do a video on how to know if the building you are in would actually collapse, right? People would actually read that kind of post or watch my video. First casting in Nigeria, adulterated fuel, first casting in Nigeria today. This is where the searches are coming from. But guess what? I can also compare it with something else. So can someone give me another issue? Can you just maybe type in the, what other thing do you want us to compare fuel with? What other conversation do you want us to have? Do you want to know what people are talking about in terms of that conversation? Just anything, any subject interesting. ASU strike, oh, fantastic. So I'm going to type ASU here, right? And that's what I'm going to put in there. So we are checking this as against ASU strike. Now you can see that ASU strike in the last 1 month, in the last 30 days, has more, people have more interest about ASU strike, but now it is dwindling, right? People are already getting used to it. Now, what are people looking for? ASU strike, majority of it is coming in from, let's see, from Oshun as well. We have a lot from Oshun. So ASU strike, people are interested, 67% are interested in ASU compared to fuel issue, right? And then the question is, what are people looking at in terms of ASU? ASU fake alerts, ASU and FG meeting today, ASU and FG news today. When will, people are even Googling, when will ASU strike end? ASU strike protest. And look at the places where you see red is where the interest is more, right? So you can see places like, Jigawa, for instance, down there. You can see Jigawa, you can see Borno. These are places, so there are more interests depending on the, the intensity of the color. There are more interest in ASU strike from those regions in terms of Google search. Hear me very clearly in terms of Google. So I can compare two issues as well. So you can always do this, for example. So if I want to write a post, for example, I can go ahead and write a post like, when will ASU strike end? And then I go back in the last 5 ASU strikes and say ASU strike number 1, when it happened in January 2010, it took 5 months. The strike took 5 months. So on the average, ASU strike basically will take about 3 months. So my prediction is that this current ASU strike will end by, maybe June 2022. Do you understand? So I am doing a post based on information. I'm giving people information. I'm giving people insight into things as well. The other thing I also wanted to show us was using Google itself now. So I'm going to do Google. We're going to just use Google itself, and then we are going to see what we have there. Google.com. So if I go here, for example, now, and I say ASU, Sorry, my network is acting out. So I'm typing ASU strike. That's what I want to type. And then I go into, enter. So I'm going to have these things. Now look at this thing at the top here. You have, where's the pointer again? Come in just a second. Okay, so let me annotate. So you have this top here that talks about all, right? You can see all, you can see news, you can see images, you can see videos. So depending on what you want. So most times, most of us just stay at this section that has all, and then we just scroll down. That's all we do. We just scroll down afterwards, right? On your phone, you just go down and then you see. But you can check for news about it, right? You can check images about ASU strike. You can check for videos about ASU strike. If it's even an issue that is happening in terms of protest and all of that, the map may even be useful to tell you that this is where the protests are actually happening at this particular point in time. Okay, so these are some of the things that you can actually use. You can actually use in that, you can actually use to draw attention, to say that, look, this is exactly what is happening. So if I click on news, for example, now it's not only going to show me news about, ASU strike, right? So it's telling me Punch is saying, if I click on images, for example, now, like I just did, it's going to show me, it's loading up. It's going to show me images that are related to ASU strike. So if I want to do a design, so this is ASU strike, this is somebody. So you can see this is the first thing here we're even saying is somebody's cartoon, right? Don't fold arms, it's someone's cartoon, the meeting room where some of these things are happening. So look at another again in terms of cartoon, FG ASU here, in terms, so creatives are also very important. Now I go to video again now. So I go to video to actually see what we actually have on that video. And then, oh, I already clicked on one of the pictures there. Okay, so I just clicked on video now. And the idea is I want to see what exactly we actually have in terms of video. So there's a video saying ASU strike may end this week. Someone is doing an analysis, right? That is from Tribune Online. So Tribune also has an online space for videos now. You have these, you have somebody posting on YouTube, student protest, ASU minister strike as ministers walk out. So we have all of these, details all together, and they are basically just videos, right? So when you're doing your search, for example, if you are wanting to search anything and you want to learn about anything, just do your search and then you can actually go to the video section. If it's clear and we understand what I'm saying, can you just type exciting into the chat room there while I stop sharing, and then I share my my screen for the last slide. Okay. All right, so I'm going to be finally talking here about using technologies to tell stories, and I'm going to be done with this in just about 10 minutes, so that we have space for questions. So how do we use technology to actually tell story? That's what this session is about. What kind of stories actually need to be told? That's the first question you ask yourself. Who should do the storytelling? What kind of story should not be told? So it's not everything that should find its way onto social media spaces. There are certain things you don't want to take out there. You attend a friend's, funeral. It's indecent to actually take pictures like that and bring them online. It's not everything that you should actually take pictures of. It's not everything that you should actually take videos of. There are some moments that just need to be glued into your head, right? There are some situations, for example, that needs to be glued into your head. A government official is being beaten somewhere. Maybe the person ran into the wrong crowd. Yes, at the end of the day, the first thing you always have to think about is the fact that, look, we are first and foremost humans. We might disagree about a number of things, but make sure that whatever it is you do, in terms of your work around governance, your humanity actually still stands out, very clearly. Your story could actually be in audio form, so I can decide to start doing podcasts. So again, when I say some things that you're not very familiar with, you can just note it and then go and Google it. So if you're hearing podcast for the first time, you can just note and say, oh, how to start a podcast, right? You can use platforms like AudioMac. You can use Anchor, for example. It might be a video form. You want to do comedy. You want to actually start doing a news form. How many of you remember that video where, what's the name of this guy? I can't remember his name now. When he was asked about, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and they were asking him that, how did he get his wealth? How did it, how old is he, right? So my video, I had a video idea at that particular point in time, and my video is that anything that happens online that is not properly done, I would do it properly and then put up a video out there, because it actually could have answered that question in a more interesting way than he actually did, right? Ruben Abati was called Ruben, and then he got offended and asked the lady, were you at my christening ceremony? And then told the guest that, one of those mannerless young people, to paraphrase how he actually said it. So I do my own video and, say it in a way that, oh, wow, you seem to actually like my name, please, you have my full permission to call me Ruben for as long as you want to, right? So I could do a video that just parodies, what's basically going on out there, and then it becomes a sensation. There's Dr. Damages that does videos about, and he talks about things that are happening in Nigeria in very interesting form. There's Adiola Fayewu that does videos about core political issues in Africa, and he talks about it, laughs about it, and all of that. These guys are doing comedy, but they are doing it from very serious perspective, addressing issues around governance. And yours might just be that, look, you can write, you can continue doing poetry about all the issues in Nigeria. You can write a short story about everything happening within the political space in Nigeria. And you can actually choose to have a mix of all of this together in multimedia form, right? I'm sure that if I stop this presentation at this point, you should be able to have gotten, the point in terms of the forms through which you actually can tell, stories as well. Who is listening to the story? First and foremost, your colleagues, citizens like yourself, governments, civil society actors, researchers. You never can tell what people are looking for. Trust me, you don't have control over this. Somebody can wake up in the morning and say that, look, we want people who talk about contraceptives, right? We want to talk to people who talk a lot about contraceptive, they know about contraceptive, and then that's all that you know about, maybe because you work in a primary health care center, or because your mom is a nurse. So she's always home complaining about, oh, what happened in the hospital today? Someone came to get an implant. The person came to complain that she got pregnant even after getting the implant. And that's all you just talk about, right? So you never can tell what people are going to be looking for tomorrow or even today. The question is, will they find the content that you are very familiar with online? It could be other social media. It could even be a researcher who is trying to research into a particular issue and then says that, oh, I want to do a focus group discussion, and I'm looking for people who are experts around this. You don't know what opportunity that researcher has on his or her table. We also have social media users who also want to hear other things that you are saying. You have rural dwellers as well who also want to watch your videos and hear what you are saying. What do you use to tell your stories? Of course, these are the technology tools we have been talking about. How do you tell your stories? Not all stories are blockbusters. Not all stories are worth being told. Find a key element in your story that will stand you out. Sometimes you need to take things not so serious, right? For those of us that are very formally framed, we like things in very formal scope. Sometimes you just need to, let down your airs and just get things done, right? Tell the stories, joke about it. It's just like when people want to take pictures and they ask me to pose for it. I always tell them that I don't like posing for pictures, just take the pictures. And the best pictures are pictures that you take without posing for it, right? But when I'm looking at the camera, for example, and then they are saying that, oh, no, adjust this way. No, just take the picture. Let the picture tell just a natural scenario, except of course it's a group picture. I sabi my rights. This is an example of a graphics, for example, that we also had. Just a minute, guys. You can have what it needs to, and then you can wait if it needs to. Right, thanks. Sorry about that. So this is an example of graphics, for example, telling a story. We're trying to look at issues around the Oputa panel. We're trying to look at the issue about the NSAS judicial panel. So this is the Oputa panel, for example, telling a story, that it was set up in 1999. How many of you remember that there was also a panel in 1999? It was called, Oputa panel. And the person who headed the panel is the father of the man you know as Charlie Boy today, right? So it's called the Oputa panel. And it was supposed to look into all the cases of human rights violation that had happened, up until the time when Obasanjo actually became president. So this is a story that we're just trying to tell with just the graphics, here. You can do a better job in terms of telling the stories in other way. Why should you tell the story? For change, you want to change things. You want people to have information. You want to keep it as a record. You also want to encourage others to speak up, right? So when something happens, sometimes you hear people saying that, oh, I decided to speak up after another person told, his or her story. You might also want to correct, a wrong fact out there, right? So that you can actually fact check with, your story can be the premise for actually fact checking with others. Where should your story be told? We've talked about this. So find out what platform people use most within your space, and then you can tell your story or your stories on those platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I thought I had my number or whatever on one of those slides, but I could do that, for my subsequent presentation. Thank you very much for having me. I would be happy to take your questions afterwards. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Mr. Shola. That was wonderful. Thank you for always showing up every time when we need you here. Okay, we have pending questions from your previous presentation. I think while we wait for others for you to post their questions, I'm going to be reading out those questions. Then I think we can also give them to one or two persons to ask their questions. So if you want to ask your question and you're very sure that your network is very, very good and it won't be breaking, just raise your hands up so I can give you opportunity to ask your questions. Okay, so Mr. Shola notes the following. Someone said, artificial intelligence found within these social media apps, that is, do they track and store our data online? You started answering something like that earlier. Then someone said, you just mentioned bloggers. I want to know who are bloggers. Okay. I think those are the two major questions. I saw on the chat box.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So I already answered the first question. Yes, there's a bit of data storage. There's a bit of, because what happens with your data that is stored is that it is used for adverts, but it just has different rank. I can't remember. There's a code. There's a whole lot of policy around that, now. But sometimes when you're filling some of those, when you're trying to download some of those, apps from your Play Store, you already give that permission, right? And then what they try to do is that because you are using that platform for free, right? And so that's why you find, apps like I pay for Truecaller on the premium version. So I don't see all those ads and all of that, right? So if you don't want to see all those ads, you pay, right? But if you want to use it for free, the price of using it for free is that some part of your data is actually stored, taken and actually shared with advertisers as well. Who is a blogger? A blogger is anyone who has a space online and keeps a log of his or her personal activity. Log is like, just like, where you do what we call CWS and all of those things, and they say your logbook, right? So you come and put a personal diary online. So all you just need to do is to find a space online, and then you tell your story, your personal life, or something that interests you. It might be entertainment, it might be your personal development journey. Somebody just did a blog about how she put to bed, inside water. What's the name of this lady? Was it last week or so? So that's like a blogger, right? It might be a vlogger. A vlogger is the one that actually, conducts these things in OBD. Yeah, thank you. A vlogger is someone that would actually do this in video form. Every day is always, taking videos. I was in the market today trying to price. Come and, see my pricing skills. I got an A grade. I was at so and so place today. I was on so and so. Another person can just be doing a story about campuses and travels from, one campus to the other. Another might actually be doing about tourism and just talks about, tourism. There's no editor, there's no proofreader. He or she is just the only person interested in it. You just need to have a space online to do that. I'm more than happy to share my contact. I'll just leave my email address. Best way to reach me if you want to reach me is my email address. Without fail, within 24 hours less, you get a response. WhatsApp, I'm horrible there. This is my number on WhatsApp, 5164. Sheon can bear me witness. All right, so that's my detail, in the room there, to everyone. Yeah, thank you very much again for having me.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shola. I think there's no any other question for now. I guess everyone is convinced I saw someone's hand up earlier and the hand has been lowered.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Shola.
All right, thank you
Okay,
so much.
Cecilia is still raising up her hand. Let me give opportunity to ask a question. Cecilia, over to you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, Cecilia.
Hi, sir. So please, my own is how to create a business account on Facebook. Initially, they trained us how to do it, but I forgot. I don't even know how to do it anymore. And I'm selling this reader product, of which I wanted posting it there. But I could not create the account.
Okay, so this is what I'll ask you to do. Just go on Google. The same question you just asked me, how to create a business account on Facebook, right? If you go on Google, you type it in, it will give you options. There'll be a video. So the way I showed you guys just now, and then you click on the video. So you will find a video that will run you through the exact explanation of what you need. They would even do better than what I have done, right? It will take you to YouTube. Someone is already even mentioning go to YouTube. So that's a secret to some of these things, right? So we all don't have I don't think I have the answer for what you want, but you will find a very coordinated response specifically addressing what you just asked for there.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you too.
That's right. And someone is already offering to be of help. I'm sure that if you meet that person, it's going to cost you some money, Cecilia. So just go to YouTube and learn yourself. But I know Sam can give you a helping hand. Okay. Thank you for that question. Okay. So, Mr. Shola, thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon in the class. You're supposed to take us some sessions, like the review of from third world to first world, the story of Singapore. Then you're also going to be sharing on how policy can influence youth development in Africa. We're looking forward to having you. It's always exciting having you around. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, everybody.
And I'll also encourage all of you to go online and follow One Life Initiative for Human Development. They have been doing wonderful, especially in respect to youth development, issues of gender and productive health. I believe some of you can end up volunteering for them, even in your respective locations across the Northeast. Okay, Shola, thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you so much. Okay.
So do have a wonderful. Okay, everyone, I'm sure the class was exciting today, right? The network kicked out our moderators, but they have found their way back. Okay, that's great. Yes, I like the responses. So very exciting. I always enjoy when people maximize the chat room, especially during every class. Then I also realized that many of us easily forget about the timing. So I want to encourage you to do something that is helping me. I'm enrolled in an online program as well that will last me till August of 2022, Tuesdays to Saturdays, 3 hours daily. And it's a class that you can't afford to miss. But something that helps me is the alarm. So you can set your alarm to ring every day at 1 p.m. and you just tag the alarm Youth Civic Engagement Program. Every time we do that, it will remind you that